Hello and welcome. Ain't nobody got time for that shit. Okay, I'm here with Ingling, Lord of Goths. You know him pretty well. And serious shit's going down, and I just want some opinions, possible solutions. I don't know how long this thing is going to run, but I'm not planning on dragging one thing out for a full hour in the first damn place. But this is some genuinely serious shit. Okay, so Warner Brothers found a way to patent a feature inside of a video game.
Wow.
That alone is devastating. But it's in particular they patented or trademark, whichever you prefer. I know there's a difference. I just keep forgetting what they are. The ability to have a siege. Yeah. The Middle Earth game that they had not too long ago. That ability where you could go in and take your quote unquote horde leader or orc or whatever you want to call those little monsters leaders, gremlin motherfuckers, raise them up, train them, overtake them, conquer them, send them to your friend's place, loot their shit. Yeah, they patented that now. That ability.
Yeah, a patent. So a patent is what prevents some people from like making or selling it, while the trademark is more like the way it's written. So you would trademark the way McDonald's is written, but then you would patent the actual methods to make the fries from McDonald's. So that's what it is. Like you often do both because you often patent and trademark the way something is marketed. You know? So you own both the way it's displayed, which is the trademark, and you own the way it's made and how it's sold and how you buy it, which is the patent covers that. So what they did is they patented, you're saying Siege, which is, it's fucking ridiculous, isn't it? Sorry for the swear, but it's fucking ridiculous. I mean, I have fucking strategy games that are older than Warner Brothers even making a single game that I can put in with a fucking disc, which have some form of siege mechanic in it. I play a lot of strategy games. Most of those have sieges. Total War is basically largely that, and it's older than the Lord of the Rings games that Warner Brothers makes. Total War is sort of like a grand strategy where you have a map that's like Risk, but much more complicated. And then you can actually, when you fight a battle, you fight it more on foot and like that. Like a Battlefront battle, more or less. And sometimes you fight it from an aerial perspective. Sometimes in some of the games you fight it as like a soldier on the field. So the games vary, and it's by no means owned by them. It's just something that's been around. Yeah. Fucking I hate these companies. They did this with I work with a lot of history and stuff, and they did this with genomes. They actually patented, this is going to sound ridiculous if you're not familiar with this. They patented your genes that they discovered conditions that aren't known to show any sort of health negative right now or health positive. They've patented them. So you can't get information on those, or you can't access that without them being paid, because they claim credit for really examining those genes, which are something that's older than any company, right? Absolutely ridiculous.
I'm pissed on so many fucking levels, and I don't know why you're apologizing for swearing, because this is the equivalent of shit rolling down the hill. They just took the shit on the industry, and it's only going to roll downhill. You and I both.
The problem is now all these other assholes like Sony are gonna fucking patent their shit out of worry, and it's gonna be a real bitch on us, the consumer. And now I don't care that I'm swearing. Fuck it. It's fucking shit. It's fucking bullshit. They know they're pulling bullshit, and they're gonna get away with it because nobody gives a fuck, because they have a lot more money than everyone else. Even though the consumer, if they all pooled together in some coordinated motion, could easily change this, nobody ever has the fucking say or hearsay to do that. And we just end up stuck with whatever bullshit they put on us, because frankly, we've all turned into a bunch of pussies since the American Revolution around the globe. God, fucking ridiculous shit. I mean, it's like they arranged a boycott of their own home country, and which, being English, it's my home country, but They arranged a boycott of the entire country that was in charge of them, from fucking 13 colonies where you had to send letters to even contact with people. And we have cell phones and modern technology, and we can't even boycott a fucking streaming service? Come on. Where's the courage, right?
I mean, it's been less than 48 hours since this happened. So,
Yeah, I mean, there was bravery. There's bravery since then. You know, you have World War II, and there's pretty brave people out there. But it's just like we let companies walk all over us. We just assume we can't do anything, and you know, there's no one who can really coordinate it. You know, it's not what you want to see. It's amazing that you have all these forms of communication that you could coordinate people in a way never done before, and all you get out of it is a bunch of protests and riots and sieges on the capital. You don't get any reform. Where's the reform? I mean, I know Hong Kong had some protests that were reform oriented, but China's not really the same beast where you can really get stuff done doing that. We have all this power here, and we just don't use it. Ah, assholes. I mean, if it affects strategy games, which I enjoy, I'm going to be really, which it will, I'll be really upset. Consoles is what they're mainly going to affect, I think, because it's pretty hard to damage PC. They'll just sue them or something like that. But you know, it's a shame. People get really into those games through consoles, and it reduces the quality and it reduces the way artists. Let's say it like it is. Artists can really create a unique thing. I feel very strongly that the public domain is way too long, and that was Disney's doing. And that, if I invented this, I get to hold on to it for X amount of time until it's public domain. So Disney, who actually profiteered off of the public domain because they used stories that are public domain. So people that aren't familiar with public domain means it's owned by everyone. Nobody owns nobody owns Rapunzel. The story Rapunzel can be told anyway because nobody owns Rapunzel. Rapunzel is part of European and mostly German culture. That was a folk tale that had been told to children, and it's owned by everyone. German or not, Polish or not, doesn't matter. Owned by everyone because it's been part of the culture for long enough. So Huckleberry Finn, American novel, 1800s, is owned by everyone. Everyone, it's part of the culture of the United States. It's part of the area, and everyone's allowed to use it. If you want to draw Huckleberry Finn in your new book, you want to write a book and use him as a character, you have the right to do that because he's part of the culture you grew up with. Disney didn't want Mickey Mouse to become public so that anyone could use Mickey Mouse as a beloved cultural icon. So they extended the time for the expiration of this exponentially, like doubled it. Used to be, I think, 50 years for it to become public domain. They made it 100, and they're going to try to make it again because the release of Steamboat Willie is coming up in 1928. So they're going to try to push it for probably 120 or 125 years. And this could, if Warner Brothers gets their way with this, it's going to fall under that. It's going to fall under, public domain law, and that's just bullshit. Fucking wait 100 years, and they'll try to push with Disney on that as well to extend it. So and the reason I say Disney profiteered off of this, look at their first stories: Snow White, fucking Cinderella, Sleeping Beauty, Alice in Wonderland. All of these are public domain. All of them. Alice in Wonderland was written in the 1800s. It became public domain before they made the movie. Sleeping Beauty, Snow White, these are stories and folk tales from, a lot of them from Germany, but Europe in general and, just part of the world. They don't belong to anyone. They belong to everyone. It's stupid. It's like using a US map for the most part. Not all of them. If someone draws them a certain way, they're unique. But for the most part, the US map is public domain. You can use it in your book. You can use it for whatever you want. It's yours to use. And it's just ridiculous that companies think they can just own shit that's you grew up with, right? Like, It's part of who you are. I don't know. I feel strongly about it. Maybe I'm ranting. What are your thoughts?
Well, for one thing, you're kind of sort of here to rant, so it's not like you're fucking wrong. Literally, you didn't say anything I disagreed with. In fact, I'm almost mad you got to bring up that whole Disney thing before I did, because people don't realize the reason public domain laws expand is damn near wholeheartedly just Disney lobbyists.
Oh yeah, Disney, and now other people have branched onto it. Disney sort of started it, as they do.
Now, imagine, my turn to talk. Imagine if DC Warner Brothers worked this hard at their comics as they did with this fucking patent. Bro, they've been trying to get this shit patented and whatnot since after the game came out. And it kept getting rejected until now. How smart is that lawyer? But I'm not even going to get into that. But here's what, the main thing that pisses me off is that this is the definition of a snowball effect. Hopefully, though, and I stress the term hopefully, other countries don't follow suit, because as we've learned, when it comes to North American rulings on how video games and interactive digital media is handled, the UN and other other countries not connected to this continent fucking do things completely differently. Like, what is it? Depending on what state you're in, you don't actually own a physical video game that you purchase. You own the plastic the data is printed on. Ain't that some shit?
Yeah, I mean, I feel the same way about music. I'm probably not allowed to endorse stealing music, but hey, if you bought a song on a CD, in the 90s or early 2000s, you own that song, in my opinion. You don't own it to use it in a movie without permission. You don't own it to use it in a way that you'll sell it to someone else, but you own it on all your devices. You don't have to buy it, and you don't have to justify to me that you're ripping it because you can't find the disc. Because guess what? I think that's totally fair. Not that I don't rip music I don't own, but I think it's fair if you've owned it. Like, my father had like around, oh man, probably 60 or 70 or something vinyls back when that's what you bought for all your music. It was typical. And they all got stolen when he moved. Every single one. So, I don't feel like he has to rebuy every album he'd want to own that he already bought. For more money, by the way. Vinyls are more expensive. Like, so yeah, I think you own the fucking video game if you fucking buy it. Just the way it is. I don't think they own that, and I definitely don't think mechanics should be owned. I understand graphics and mechanics being patented and owned when it's your engine, when it's your work. That can be a really big deal to steal it. But we're not talking about, the graphics or the engine. We're talking about a function in the game, something like a specific way the game is played. Like, it would be like, imagine if Doom had tried to patent first person. Imagine that. How different, like, they aren't even the first to do first person. Neither is Warner Brothers to do sieges of any kind. But imagine if they had done that. How different gaming would be today if we only had what they could produce as first person. It's uncomfortable for the player. It's uncomfortable for the artist. And I highly doubt the people who made it and actually conceived of this stuff for Warner Brothers would want their work to be treated that way. It's just a pure example of a company just raping the people in any way they fucking can. And the other companies will join in the gangbang, like a scene in The Clockwork Orange, rather than try to fucking stop them, because that's what they do, right?
I am now scared to watch that movie. That being said, yeah, like it's fucked up, and the problem is that they know that this is a dumbass idea, and it's not like they don't have any prime examples. Listen, when people are too dumb to challenge dumb shit, we end up with the Japanese situation. And before someone misinterprets that into something racist, what I mean by that is, did you know that you cannot legally rent a video game in Japan?
No, I had no idea.
Yeah. The old president of Nintendo, the one who was an asshole, not Satoru Iwata, just so we're clear, but it was the guy before him, because it used to be a family-run and owned and operated company until he passed the reins to Satoru Iwata. But that guy, the one who hated and did not respect people that played RPGs, yeah, he did that because he thought it would increase the chances of a sale. Or at least that's what the current estimation is, because again, the motherfucker dead.
Yeah, they do that. That's the same thing with backwards compatibility, that they thought people would rebuy all their crap, but then, I actually think it hurts and I'm sure this is the majority party's view in this. I don't want to say party, but I'm saying it in a joking way, of listeners here and of people who are speaking here, is that backwards compatibility increases sales because people are more likely to buy something they can play their old games on. Um, you know, I think that's just something we all agree on in general. So they just think that people will buy it again.
Yeah, so basically the thing about these patents is that even the companies that do get some, they don't enforce them because they're not stupid. Because here's the problem you run into. That means that basically if you're a North American independent game developer, and let's say someone does something grimy, like they get HP bars, they get the concept of an HP bar. How many people are fucked? Everyone. Someone's gonna try some shit just because they saw them do it. Sony knows that Nintendo had no business making rentals illegal. And they know that they're the biggest contender in Japan who can have it overthrown because it doesn't take much effort. But guess what? They know about it and they haven't done shit about it because they think it benefits them too. And it's fucking dumb. It's probably to a point now where literally fucking CEOs don't even care or know about it anymore. Kaz Hirai, I don't think he's ever mentioned anything or having any issues with lending, borrowing, or renting games. In fact, we all remember when Xbox really fucked up when the Xbox One came out, and they basically made it so your system is a fucking brick if it doesn't do annual checkups online, and you can't let someone borrow your fucking game. He made a whole entire meme video about it that was like 5 seconds long, and it was the most hilarious shit ever. So more than likely, Nintendo's kept this shit so quiet that Sony doesn't even know or think that it's a thing, because people are so used to borrowing shit from each other. Why rent when you can borrow? Because the thing about rental is that you're really doing it because there's no one around you to let you borrow it. But at the same time, that shit is dumb, and it's not the first time we've seen somebody do this shit. I don't know if you remember this. I might try to look it up directly so I don't fuck up all of it. But Redman was a big help and aid to the Def Jam fighting game series. In fact, besides being a playtester, he was coming up with basic ideas for how the game should handle, but just based off of what he knew. And they decided to fuck him at the last second.
Jeez.
Yeah, and they basically said that, we're not going to increase your credit or put you in a credit or something they did to him. And what ends up happening is that he started, okay, you're not going to respect me or, listen to me or use the shit that we know works. Okay, guess what? I'm going to go as fucking get a bunch of patents so you can't use the shit I came up with in this game where I told you how to properly use the game.
It's just petty.
Yeah, but no, here's the thing though. He ain't stupid. He didn't enforce it. So because he didn't enforce it, basically only Def Jam couldn't use it. So that's why when you got for Def Jam, what was it, Icon? Def Jam Icon, it was nothing like Fight for New York or Vendetta, which people were actually liking these games.
I mean, if he's the artist, that's a bit of his right more than it is theirs. Although I will say it depends on the contract that they sign as an employee, whether or not they can do that. I'm assuming if he got the rights to the patents, he didn't sign a contract that was very exclusive on those things. But a lot of times, the company owns the product you work on, really. You just own the right to advertise that you worked on it and to offer your services in it as a credit and stuff like that. And you can use some of the stuff you designed in it, but they own the actual work, like, stuff. So, it depends. I would like to say the West won't follow suit. I think that they're better about that now. But look at drug laws that, the US, they weren't around before, were passed and forced in, say, in the 60s largely, in the 50s a little bit, and 70s. The West pretty much universally adopted them. Universally, almost. a lot of those things nobody really thought to put into law, did they? They're just like, oh, whatever. It's not like a lot of that shit is even native to, like, in 1920, I don't think a single person in England knew what peyote was. But is it illegal in England? Yeah, it is. At least I'm pretty sure it is. So the US pushed a lot of legislation that the rest of the world has had to accept for a long time now. They've sort of set that trend. I think it's no longer the case. Europe's a little more strict on car regulation and on food regulation than the US is, except Canada. And well, not Canada. I meant California, but Canada's the same thing with their laws. They don't really completely follow the US, but they're more subject to the US. So,
Anyways, and
I worry that it'll become a problem in Europe because the companies that sell to Europe will be a bitch, like Warner Brothers, like Sony.
it's going to happen. But see, the problem is that they indirectly, or no, rather, they completely, and this is almost fucked up. They're kind of sort of killing the indie market, because guess what? They could say that they cut everybody in on a discount, but then they can go and pull in some robber baron shit. So if you got an indie game and you make it in North America, but you want to release it over here, they could say, hey, we'll let you release it if you publish it through us, publish it through us, publish it through us. Even if the game is going to be hot shit and they know it, because then that means that Warner Brothers in one foul swoop controls the market. But guess what? They're not the first person who's going to think of this shit, and they barely got any patents and trademarks for their name. So people like Nintendo, Sony's big ass, fucking possibly Sega and Capcom, they could go in and they can snatch up anything you remotely think of. Technically, all the people that made that landmark shit that got carried on, they don't work at most of these companies anymore. And remember, we gave a company the same rights as fucking people, what was it, 10, 12 years ago, and that bothers me to this day. So even though the guy who made Street Fighter and King of Fighters, which people forget, came up with super combos or super meter, Capcom can go and pull a fucking patent on that bitch. And the only one who could challenge it is him. But is he going to think to do it? Fuck no.
Ugh.
They don't know what's going on in North American gaming politics and shit of that nature. He probably wouldn't even notice that shit happened until literally someone told him in an interview. And remember, the dude who made Street Fighter is notorious for not doing interviews. He didn't do interviews for almost 16 years straight. The first time he did an interview after Street Fighter came out was when Dragon Ball Budokai 2 came out, because people forget Dimps is his company. He made it. He also made most of Street Fighter 4, or more than half of the game, because, again, his company made it. So I'm just sitting up here like, well, was commissioned to work on it, I should say. So I'm just sitting up here like, this is the definition of a doomsday scenario. There's no way for us to avoid this. The only way we can fix this is if someone goes in and finds that judge, and they tell that judge point blank, this was a terrible idea. Because the first thing any government official is going to think of, well, who's the biggest authoritative body we got? The ESA. Here's the problem with the ESA. The ESA is not a government-regulated situation. And that's what people keep forgetting. That private companies regulating their own shit always ends with government regulation coming in, and they increase what they do and the security, because these companies are going to get lax as soon as they realize they can get profit from something. It's that fucking simple. The FDA only exists, I'm sorry, not the FDA, the USDA only exists because people working at meat packing plants was telling literally the whole government, yo, you need to stop these guys because they're fucking up shit. It never changes. Why do we have environmental protection programs? Because giant ass corporations will fuck up the environment and not give a shit if it means they get profit. Or they'll make good environment, healthy weather system, a premium price only for fucking rich people. That's why there should have always been government regulation. It was scary in the 90s, and I totally understand that. And I'm going to tell you why it was scary in the fucking 90s. Because government didn't know shit about gaming. You think they're bad with technology? They still don't know the basic bullshit about fucking gaming. So if government regulation comes in tomorrow, and they say point blank, hey, guess what? We're banning any gory games. It might take us years to get that shit fixed. We might turn into basically reverse Australia. And that's not meant as an insult. If you know the history of violence in gaming, or Australia's lack of understanding of basic shit when it comes to video gaming, we're fucked. Because here's the thing. A horror movie, and this is always bad for me, horror novels, horror fucking cartoons, horror movies, horror TV shows get a free pass to do whatever in the hell they fucking want. But when you are a video game, you're held to a secondary double standard, which is bullshit. But half of that reasoning is because there isn't a giant overhead governing body that can just say, no, you're not going to exclude them or treat them this differently. The hardest rating you can get in a movie is NC-17. Basically, it's literally pornography mixed with human emulation of gore. Nobody fucks with it that much. And it's for one simple reason. It's not because people aren't interested. There's no market. It's basically, if you're doing something like that, it better be a fan project. It might just be something for a demo reel, because you can't do it for real. You can't do it for real because no producer's going to fund you, because they know how bad, even if it's a good movie, how bad NC-17 ratings are for anyone to even find your shit. There are stores who don't want to sell it, not even because they're barred from it or it'll be bad for their business, but because they literally see it as a waste of space on their shelves or in their storage units. That's how fucked NC-17 is as a rating. That's the only people I've seen get away with it is Underground College Movie. I think that was NC-17. But here's the thing. They had a hotline and they had commercials. That's it. That's how they got around that shit. That's all they did. But guess what? The fact that you have to do that should let you know offhand, oh, I'm not going to fuck with this. And
well, the ratings are notoriously fucky. I mean, there's a movie, what's the movie I was thinking of? So, oh man, there's a director, the name is escaping me right now. There's, I think it's a Tarantino film. There's a Tarantino film that's, Tarantino's famously kind of R-rated. It's got no nudity, it's got no drug use, and it's got no graphic violence, and it gets an R rating. And then you look at like 16 Candles, which has drug use, it has implied sex, it has teenagers at a party, and it gets PG-13. It's just bullshit, right? It's because of the theme being and the director being darker. They give it a higher rating, and it's actually no one really knows who rates all that stuff. It's just like a group of weirdos.
It's more strict, or actually it's more upheld, because a lot of people kept saying, well, the Russo brothers kept saying, we don't understand why our movie is getting a rated R in all these foreign countries. Like, first off, I know you can't say shit because you're under NDA, but you ain't stupid. You know exactly why that shit was getting an R movie literally out everywhere outside North America. Because there's a fucking beheading and blood squirts out of the neck. That's why. That's why. And I'm just sitting up here like, this is fucking frightening. The ESA, you know what? They don't even have to abolish or erase themselves. But the ESA needs to exist as like a little brother or the child of a government entity. They don't want, and the main reason they don't even want federal regulation ain't even because, realistically speaking, because they're going to fuck everything up. No, it's because they're scared of anybody else being in charge. That's it. Because if you stop and think about it, and you really stop and think about it, their organization, the ESRB, courtesy of the ESA, that was a knee-jerk, frightening reaction from government coming down on them. Nintendo didn't even need to even be involved with that shit, but they're in there. Capcom, I think, is in there too. But here's what happened. They realized that a universal standard needs to happen. So they brought up a union. Ironic, because most of these companies don't want their employees to unionize, or will try to bar you from unionizing or working for them if you even dream of the dimension of the word union. That's so ironic, and again, double standards. Hypocritical, if you will. But here's the main part that pisses me the fuck off the most. They made an announcement about it. I know that seems weird, like, well, why the fuck does that piss you off the most? Do you know how many patents and trademarks get filed that no one fucking knows about until or unless they involve a video game system? Literally, the only time patent registration lookups make the news or YouTube is when it involves video games. That's it. When have you ever woke up and your news tweet feed or YouTube feed or Good Morning America was blowing up because, oh shit, the Jack LaLanne Power Juicer filed a new patent? No, it's only video games. And movie title trademarks, but that don't mean shit. And then they always sit on the shit, even if they don't use it. Look no further than Darkstalkers. I like how people say Darkstalkers aren't dead. Well, guess what? That's just a fucking shirt. In reality, Darkstalkers is a merchandising lane that Capcom uses to get fucking merchandise money from because they will not put effort into a new title. They're renewing the license so they can renew the characters so they can renew the money that they get from whoring out Morgan. And that's barely even hyperbole because here's the thing. Of all the characters in Darkstalker, the most prominent one you've seen, not just in smutty fan art and really low-grade shitty porn or porn where Morgan magically has a dick, which tired of seeing that shit in my feed, is because they learned very early, like a lot of other companies tried to do, the best way to make money wasn't to sell good video games. It was actually to make it so people are buying merchandise from your product. And it's fucked up, but that's how they thought back then. Because remember, from the creation of the video games as an industry to right now, the vast majority of video game CEOs and shareholders collectively do not play games or barely touch video games.
Well, yeah, they're about selling it. They're not about using it.
Exactly.
Understanding it.
Exactly. So, fucking the only time that was an exception, and debate that how you will, was when the PS3 came out. You know why? Because it was the only, if not cheapest, Blu-ray player at the time. That's why a lot of people had a PS3. I know people who literally only bought a PS3, older people, because it was a Blu-ray player. And they had HD screens. So, that's the biggest problem, because if they hadn't have done this and if no one had said something and they said, well, people are free to make their own version, we know that's a fucking lie. They want to just get money. If Warner Brothers truly cared about making good products, they would have just made good products. Look at the entire lineup of DC streaming service, DC Universe. People have been saying 70% of these shows are garbage, but they keep getting new seasons, and the good shows get fucked over, or the good shows, I shit you not, will only have 1 or 2 seasons, or it's a really, really old show that they're not doing anything with anymore. And then at the same time, they can't even properly keep the licensing to shit. They also prefer to sell it out. Everyone knows that the Batman animated cartoon show and the sequel to it, they didn't even have to end it, the Batman and Robin cartoon show from the late 80s to the 90s, was one of the best animated, also cartoon shows, period, not just in North America. But HBO is trying to get the license so they can make a sequel to it. But it's a DC property. But DC didn't think to make a fucking sequel. But they keep giving Titans, a show that is so disturbingly bad, the actors openly admit it on Twitter because they don't want to look like they're defending it, keeps getting new seasons. Batwoman didn't get canceled because the original actor left. The original actor saw how terrible the show was, so she left. A new actor coming in doesn't mean shit.
Yeah,
it doesn't mean people are watching the show because it's a black bat person. No! Bitch, no! Everyone and their mom knows that comic books have alternate dimension stories damn near every fucking year. Everyone knows that. There is nobody who has seen a North American graphic novel that is not aware of 2 words. What if? Marvel even has a brand new animated show coming out that is literally just nothing but what if series. It's basically the Twilight Zone, except it doesn't always end with some horrible shit for Marvel. Coming on Disney Plus. It's the same shit with Last of Us 2. Marketing companies want to get in front of this and try to manipulate the crowd to say that this is why people are mad. No, bitch, that's not why. Here's the problem with saying some dumb shit like that. People can go right in the comments or the tweet or whatever social media you're using and fucking correct your ass immediately.
I guess people do unite on that too. That's a good point.
Yeah. When they have something to hate, they unite. Cool. People weren't mad at Last of Us 2 because they were voting for Trump and other bullshit. They were mad because they didn't like the fucking story and the game's ending. That's how it works. But there's a difference. Final Fantasy VII killed a character everyone liked. We were all sad and mad about it. And if you're young enough, you even fucking cried. But guess what? People don't hate Final Fantasy VII for it. You know why? Because it was still a good game. And Square Enix didn't go around saying, oh, if you didn't like that she died, you're all a bunch of fucking pussies and whatever. You're just a bunch of hate mongers and shit like that. They respected it. And when people ask why it was even in there, they explain it. Because the lead producer or the director, 2 different people, by the way, mother had recently passed, and he wanted to put in a level of emotion and depth into a character's death that they hadn't explored before, because even though characters have died in previous Final Fantasy games, they were, up to that point, for the most part, they were only guest characters. They weren't meant to be in the whole game from the beginning. But it's different. It hits different with Aerith, because Aerith, there's nothing that lets you know or imply she's going to die. It's snuck up on you. Loki is one of the only ones who comes close, and I'm not gonna go through the whole story of it. But Loki in, I think, Final Fantasy 5 or 6, Loki, who's a secret character, if you will, his whole entire point was that he needed help to go to a mountain where he could get some special magic ability or some type of MacGuffin. If you don't know what a MacGuffin is, Google it, or I'll put it up on screen. Get a MacGuffin to bring.
Sounds familiar. I don't know what it is. I'll look it up.
To bring his dead girlfriend back. A MacGuffin is any item in any movie or piece of entertainment that doesn't exist in the real world, but is meant to be the main plot driving force of whatever you're watching. Yeah. And the first one to come up with it was some guy whose last name was MacGuffin, I think. Same with Foleying. Foleying came from Jack Foley. But anyways, the thing didn't work, but the dude still decides to help you. That was sad, because you went through this whole side quest to help somebody who just wanted to bring back a loved one, only to find out, tough titty, bro. Life's a bitch. But here's the thing. It's not the same as Aerith. You got to keep Loki. You never got to keep his girlfriend. His girlfriend didn't have shit to do with it. They've done this before, and they've done this after Final Fantasy VII. But Aerith hits different because of how good the story was and how she was portrayed and everything that happened before then. She kept going in your party. She kept getting taken out of your party. She comes back in. Then she willfully leaves. So a tension builds up. Like, why is she doing this? Man, am I going to have to fight a boss to get her back? Do I have enough material, equipment? Blah, 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 blah. Nah, she just gone, homie. And then on top of that, you can even meet her ghost later on in the game. It doesn't talk to you, but you can still meet her ghost later on in the fucking game. And it was basically meant to show you that Aerith is, in fact, still conscious of, or she still has self-awareness in the live stream, which most people don't get to have after a certain point in time. But anyways, that's why. And I'm curious to see how the fuck they're going to try to manipulate this situation. Because I honestly think what happened is Warner Brothers as a whole, not NetherRealm Studios, but they might try some shit like that. Warner Brothers now sees that since they done this, the shareholders and stockholders, they're probably going to try other shit. Because I think I can almost guarantee you what happened. Somebody decided they wanted to get money since they couldn't really properly merchandise a lot of Mortal Kombat as well as they could other shit. They want to get money in between these games being made, and they want it for more than just DLC and gambling cosmetic shit being made. So they just said, okay, well, what else can we do with the game industry? Steal. North America's in trouble. The EU's not going to be in trouble. And who else am I?
Yeah, they'll manage.
Yeah, they're going to say, get the fuck out of here. That's what they're going to say wholeheartedly. I don't know about South America. Because first off, Warner Brothers' presence in South America has never been big. I think legit they just basically use the South American branch for a distribution hub and localization. They don't do anything else out of it.
Yeah, it'll never fly as a marketing in Europe. Europe even wants Apple to stop making fucking chargers that are different and all those other companies like Google. They want everyone to make the same shape charger, and they actually view it as assaulting the consumer when it's different, which is pretty awesome.
But anyways, here's the thing though. I don't know if you remember the
love it.
Phone charger apocalypse of the late 90s, do you?
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, well, the United Nations and some other entity, they got together and they said, we're filling up landfills with your chargers and adapters that you unnecessarily change every single time you unleash a new phone. So you guys need to get to a universal standard. Now, that's not why USB was born, but one of the ideas, as you can see, came out of that because it was the same way for computer shit too. There wasn't universal cords anymore. I still have to tell people that back in the day, mouses were plugged up with a special socket that had 6 pins on it. Yeah.
I know. I remember when they changed everything. Like,
oh, no, it's just, the listener might not. So, I was just sitting up here like, there is no end to the level of greed of an industry that has no regulation. Free market doesn't mean shit. The free market ain't the problem. The problem is greedy people in a free market. Greedy people in a free market fuck up. Point blank. And that's what Warner Brothers is doing right now. I'm disgusted.
Well,
Bro,
that's why we have protectionism in the free market, and we'll see. We'll see if that is able to back it off. Hopefully.
yeah. Hope is the only thing we can have right now. Okay, with that being said, this breaking token games news shit comes to an end. And enjoy the new intros, outros. I might do a transition, I don't know, of all of this material. Oh my god, this shit is just I'm genuinely scared. Like I don't have a joke here. Man does not scare me, even if I didn't. My maybe upbringing, maybe because I was in the military. Man doesn't scare me. Corporations, on the other hand, terrify the shit out of me sometimes.